Our government doesn't care, specifically the Pentagon. Now, you see, the title of today's episode says we need d.o.g.e. More than ever, U.S. government has failed its 7th consecutive audit. Now, if you're driving, you should pull over. If you're taking a sip of coffee, eating, I don't want y'all to choke when you find out how much money they just can't account for. Just gone. Poof. Disappeared. Well, the Pentagon on Friday failed its 7th audit in a row, with the nation's largest government agency still unable to fully account. I'm getting dizzy. For more than $824 billion budget. Though officials stress they're making good progress towards a clean audit. Folks, last audit was over $1 trillion. But don't worry, we're making progress. We're making progress for a clean audit in 2028. Yeah, with Donald Trump back, you're not going to freaking have a lot of these agencies. There's not going to be any wonder where the money went because you're not going to get the money to spend in the first place. Department of Defense technically earned a disclaimer of opinion, meaning it failed to provide sufficient information to auditors to form an accurate opinion. Hey, where's this 800 billion? Don't worry about it. Oh, okay. Well, they wouldn't tell us where the money went. There's a disclaimer down at the bottom in the footnotes. The goal is to earn an unmodified audit opinion or a clean audit that says the financial statements are accurate. A qualified opinion says there are omissions and concerns, but the finances are generally reliable. Under Secretary of Defense and Chief Financial Officer said that despite the disclaimer of opinion, I've never heard of that, by the way, which he expected, the Defense Department has turned a corner. Oh, shit. Come on. Look at this quote. It's like Joy Behar has turned a corner in its understanding of the depth and breadth of its challenges. Oh, I can't wait till these people are let go. I don't feel bad. I don't. Because when this happens, everybody's affected by it. I don't feel bad when somebody loses their job like this. And we all see it. And that's why Donald Trump's putting forth d.o.g.e. That's why he's going to put in there the federal government that's all about efficiency. And Vivek Ramaswamy, yeah, I fanboy over him. Okay, get over it. I fanboy over Trump too. You going to get me on that one? Well, Ramaswamy expects mass reductions. Oh, and that's an understatement. You guys know me. I've been watching this behind the scenes like a hawk. Because I want to know every detail on what's going on. Because I'm tired of this crap. I'm tired of the wasteful spending, these freaking contractors that are getting these government contracts, like saying, oh, that bag of nails is going to cost you $100,000, even though we get it at Lowe's for $5. Yeah, that shit ain't flying anymore. So there will be mass reductions in the federal government under President-elect Donald Trump's second administration, Vivek Ramaswamy predicted this weekend. Ramaswamy picked him to lead or help lead with Elon Musk, the Department of Government Efficiency. And I love this. There is an end date for it. There's a long video, and I want to watch the whole thing because one, it's Vivek, two, it's Fox News, and we get a little bit more than just him talking about d.o.g.e.
They're going to be saving a lot of money and making our country stronger and better, and they'll be coming out with individual reports, but a big one toward the end. And you put those two together, it's going to be really great.
Jimmy. And that is President-elect Trump and on Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy leading the newly created Department of Government Efficiency, or d.o.g.e., to identify and cut wasteful spending of taxpayer money within the federal government as America stares over a fiscal cliff due to the $7 trillion in new spending.
Oh, boy, $7 trillion. I'm not exaggerating, you guys. I really do mean this. When I hear this type, I lose my breath. Like, have you ever been punched in the gut? I'm not saying I feel like I'm being punched in the gut, but I lose my breath when we're talking about this type of money. If you don't, I'm not attacking you, but if you don't have a feeling of when you hear 7 trillion or 800 billion or 100 billion just going here or there, 60 billion, and you don't feel like just, I don't know. That means overall, look at cost of basic essentials. I wanted to see this because this is This is insane. Insane. You fix this. For those on audio, it's energy. You get this down 30%. I'm not saying everything else is going to go down 30%, but we'll drop the prices of goods a little bit here or there, or at least stagnate it. You know what I mean? I don't think prices are going back to what they used to be, folks. So when I see that $6 box of cereal, which I haven't been buying, by the way, I've been a good boy. I've been not buying boxes of cereal because I ain't paying $6 for a box, and I ain't paying $6.50 for a bag of chips. No, sir. No, sir. Get that shit under control, Trump.
By the Biden-Harris administration, which sent inflation up better than 20%. The national debt now standing at $36 trillion, with interest on the debt alone approaching $1 trillion. Joining me now in this Sunday morning.
What? Can anybody fathom this crap? You guys, in all our lifetimes, I think it will come down to, I just don't think it's come down to pre-COVID numbers. In our lifetimes, this happened.
Morning Futures exclusive is the co-leader of that department, the Department of Government Efficiency, Vivek Ramaswamy, with me this morning. Great to see you.
It's good to see you, Maria.
Thank you so much for joining us. Happy to have you here on set. I want to get your take on how this begins.
Sure.
What are you looking to cut right from the beginning?
So first is we want to go right in through executive action to do the failures of the executive branch that need to be addressed. Because the dirty little secret right now, Maria, is the people we elect to run the government, they're not the ones who actually run the government. It's the unelected bureaucrats in the administrative state. That was created through executive action. It's going to be fixed through executive action. Think about the Supreme Court's environment over the last several years. They've held that many of those regulations are unconstitutional at a large scale. Rescind those regulations, pull those regs back, and then that gives us the industrial logic to then downsize the size of that administrative state. And the beauty of all of this is that can be achieved just through executive action without Congress. Score some early wins, and then you look at those bigger portions of the federal budget that need to be addressed one by one. So I think that's one way to think about this is how can the president of the United States, who's been elected with a historic mandate, actually do the thing that the voters have voted for. They haven't voted for incremental change here this time, Maria. We have voted for sweeping change, and the voters actually deserve to get it. And we're focused on how to do that as early and as quickly as possible.
So President-elect Trump just said on that soundbite that you're going to make recommendations. So you're going to make recommendations in terms of where to cut after all that you've just said. Then what?
Look, we're not going to be cutting ribbons. We're going to be cutting costs. And so those recommendations are going to be on a real-time basis. But I do want to take a big step back and understand, for people to understand the.
So I'm trying to understand the flow, right? Because my main question has been, how is this going to work? Like, I get they're going to look through the paperwork. They're going to look at the numbers. Like, I get all that. What I mean is, are we cutting as we're going? Because remember, this is a government program that they're opening up basically right now, if you want to look at it that way. And it has an end date of July 4th, 2026. I don't want to wait till July 4th, 2026 for them to go, here you go, Mr. Trump, Mr. President. Now we can start cutting. On January 20th, I want Trump, and you guys, I mean this in all literal sense. I want him to walk in that Oval Office that day and just start. I don't even want him to physically sign. I just want to stamp. Ta, 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 ta. Done. Fired. Boom. Gun. Get out. You're done. See you later. Boom, boom, boom. I just want him to just start cutting left and right. Just boom, 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 boom. Just start manufacturing. Just double fisting stamps. Da, 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 da. That's what I want. And it seems like that's going to be the case with the executive branch, at least that side of it. And then those other recommendations about cutting. And I think they're going to be doing it based on what he's saying as they find out, which is awesome. Hey, Trump, this one needs to go. Cool. Boom. Stampy. Give me another one.
Scope of this problem. Over $500 billion that's spent every year right now was not even authorized by Congress in the first place. The Pentagon has just failed its 7th consecutive audit, nearly $1 trillion of budget. They can't even tell you where it goes. So I think part of this is exposing for the public the extent of that rot and waste, but then to take steps first through executive action and then laying the groundwork for broader change through legislation as well to rein in that deficit, to rein in that budget. And more crucially, Maria, I know we're talking about this in terms of efficiency, but there's something deeper going on here. This is about restoring self-governance and accountability in America as well. Elected leaders, if they make the wrong decisions, voters have a great choice. You can vote them out and remove them. Most of the people making these decisions, from healthcare to the Department of Defense, are failing on effectiveness because they have no accountability. Historically, it's been the view of many scholars to say that those people could not even be fired. Now we take a different view with the environment the Supreme Court has given us in recent years, and we're going to use that in a pretty extensive way, Maria, to move quickly.
I 100% agree with Vivek here. There's no consequences. These assholes, and that's what they are, act like this in government. They just write these checks with no thought because they know nothing's going to happen to them. There's going to be another president in another 4 years. President's gone, no firing for them, so they get to act like idiots. But if any of us in the corporate world or the private sector got to act like idiots, well, you know, we get fired, we get let go, we get thrown in prison, this or that happens. Like, we actually have consequences. So basically what's happening is you have these people, Americans, by the way, that are giving the double middle finger to all of us saying, hey, we know better than you do what to do with your money. And you know what, quite frankly, we don't care what happens to it, so much so that it just disappears upwards of $1 trillion. That's happened multiple times. And you know what? Maybe it's about time, snip, 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 they get let go. Maybe it's about time when people start losing their jobs, maybe things will change. I hate saying it because those people need to feed their family, right? You're talking thousands and thousands of jobs. But when you sit there and do stuff like that, that's not okay.
You're going to have pushback, not just from the left. You may have pushback from those very people who are running those departments, running those agencies. They want as many people as they want in there. You're going to want to fire people. Yeah. So how are you going to deal with that? You're also perhaps looking at pushback from Congress. How are you going to deal with Congress? How are you going to deal with having Congress need to change the law?
Well, look, the beauty of this is I think we have a lot of allies in Congress who have their heart in the right place. But what we've learned is over the last 40 years, even conservatives, we've talked a big game for 40 years about cutting the federal government, about reducing the scope of the federal government. Politicians haven't been able to do it. And so Elon and I, we're not politicians. We're businessmen. We're coming at it from the outside. Sometimes if you go inside, you become native to the system. So President Trump, I applaud him for his creativity and his open-mindedness to setting this up for success in a way that hasn't happened before. But I come back to the principle. In the early months, score quick wins through executive action, show what can be done then, and then I think we will lay the groundwork for Congress to have to take meaningful steps in budget reductions for the future. A lot of these discussions we have are theoretical. Right? I have to cut different entitlement programs or whatever. Let's start with the fact that there is massive waste, fraud, and abuse right now. Federal contractors are really exploiting the federal government. You could take haircuts across the board, and they would be no worse off for it. And it's not just about cutting cost, but increasing effectiveness from defense to healthcare. A lot of that is a failure of the administrative state itself, Maria, that rests under the executive branch. And I'm optimistic. It's part of why we've set an end date on this. Our work is done by July 4th, 2026. Unlike every other government project, we don't want this one to last. We want to go in, fix the problem, dissolve, and move on, and set an example for how our federal government should run.
I love that. But again, you are going to face pushback from within.
Sure.
And you are going to have to make this so compelling that you get the support, congressional support. So how do you do that?
Well, look, I think the public is on our side. Most of the public understands their taxpayer dollars are not being well spent. They want to hold these decision makers accountable, and they're not able to. These congressmen are responsive to the people. Many of them are quietly on our side as well. So I think the division of responsibilities, a lot of people who face 2-year election cycles in political Congress, they end up looking at what's happening tomorrow. We're looking at the next 250 years. We want to give them credit for doing the right thing. Elon and I aren't in this for the credit, but I think we're going to build the consensus to make the kind of deep cuts that haven't been made for most of our history.
Are you expecting to close down entire agencies like President Trump has talked about the Department of Education, for example? Are you going to be closing down departments?
We expect mass reductions. We expect certain agencies to be deleted outright. We expect mass reductions in force in areas of the federal government that are bloated. We expect massive cuts among federal contractors and others who are overbilling the federal government. So, yes, we expect all of the above. And I think people will be surprised by, how quickly we're able to move with some of those changes, given the legal backdrop the Supreme Court has given us.
You've got what has been called a deep state. You've got people who have been career bureaucrats in place right now. Didn't President Biden put in...
I want to show you all right now, you got to be in the chat, what happens... Let me see if I can pop this out. This is what Vivek's talking about. Government agency. So all the leftists in here, government agency, deleted. Deleted, removed, gone. See you later. That's what he's talking about.
Plans to ensure that you're not going to be able to fire those people at all. How do you get around that? And, you know, I asked Joni Ernst, are you for term limits? She says, yes, I am for term limits, as long as the people around me are also for term limits. That's not in place right now. So how do you get rid of those people who are dug in?
Well, a lot of what's happened is President Biden has made a lot of changes trying to entrench the administrative state. The Supreme Court has slapped them on the wrist numerous times. So we're working with a legal landscape here that is historic. You think about a president of the United States like Donald Trump, elected with the mandate he's been given, both chambers of Congress belonging to Republicans, a 6-3 conservative majority in the Supreme Court. Maria, if we don't downsize the federal government now, it's never going to happen in the future.
He took the words right out of my mouth. If we don't downsize now, and I was waiting for this video to get done to say this exact thing, so might as well just do it. This is the only time, you guys. And I fully believe that this is the only time we have to take things back to how it's supposed to be. If it doesn't happen now, I 100% think we're done. It's it. It's GG. You know, start packing up, not leaving the country, but you know what I mean? Now we're just going to be idiots and we're going to keep going and going and going. Let's hope that everything falls apart after we're dead and gone.
As well. So this is a historic opportunity. We're not actually going to squander this, but I think part of the key is to move quickly, to move effectively. I think that mass deregulation that I talked about earlier, that gives us the industrial logic to then make cuts to that bureaucracy, and moving quickly is our objective.
Have you thought about moving some of these departments or agencies out of Washington?
It's funny you bring up this point. Yes is the answer, but here's why. They'll say, well, what happens to the people who live in Washington, D.C.? Here's the dirty little secret in the federal bureaucracy today. Most people don't even show up to work. So if you require most of those federal bureaucrats to just say, like normal working Americans, you come to work 5 days a week, a lot of them won't want to do that. And by the way, that creates a logic for many of those agencies being outside of D.C. in the first place. So these are, again, examples. It's a great point you just brought up.
So would you
sweeping
move, for
changes
example,
we're able to make quickly.
You could move the energy department to Texas or to Pennsylvania. You could move agriculture somewhere else. Is that what you're thinking?
Well, look, I think that, yes, absolutely. But I think even bigger picture than that, many of these agencies should be downsized wherever they are. And for whatever does remain, move many of them out to be where they're more accountable to the people. And by the way, if you have many voluntary reductions in force of the workforce in the federal government along the way, great. That's a good side effect of those policies as well. And so our goal is not to be cruel, by the way, to the individual federal employees. Most of them, I do want to say this, are individually good people, and we want to be compassionate and generous in how we handle this transition. But the real issue is there's just too many of them. We don't need 4 million, and we shouldn't have 4 million civil servants who or aren't even elected or can't be removed from their positions. It's anti-democratic.
Real quick, we got to jump, but
100% agree about everything Vivek says. And obviously I would tell you, right? Like, I don't agree with what he's saying here. I have no qualms with a single thing that dude just said, which is a remarkable thing if you think about it. Because normally politicians, and I know Vivek's a businessman, but he's also a politician at this point too. It's kind of both. You know, the guy's right. He's right about everything.